Welcome, second graders, to our first read aloud. This is a time where Miss Santana is going to read a book to you. This is a time where our ears will be on and our mouths will be off, meaning we're not going to be talking, we're going to be listening. What I'm going to do during this time is I'm going to read this little book called The Little Chapel That Stood. Now, this is kind of a big book for me to hold and read and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I have a camera on my right side, and I am going to use my projector so that you can see the pictures. Okay? And I will read the book to you. So let's begin. I'm going to share my screen. And here we are. Let me adjust that so that it's straight. Let's see. There it is. The Little Chapel That Stood by A.B. Curtis. Around the chapel of Old St. Paul blow the dancing leaves of the coming fall. In the morning breeze, they leap and fly beneath the towers that scrape the sky. George Washington's family worshipped here. Alexander Hamilton's grave lies near. Since 1766 has stood this house of God and bricks, solid and steadfast as time whirled around it, unchanged since horse and carriage found it. So is this chapel a new chapel, or has this chapel been around for a long, long time? Yeah, it's been for a long, long time, ever since the country was founded, ever since George Washington was alive. And George Washington was our first president. That's the chapel right there. A solace to presidents, help to the poor. No one was ever turned from its door. An immigrant's refuge, a sojourn's peace, where hope is born and sorrows cease. This place people came from far away to come and see. As the centuries passed and the city grew dense, its buildings grew higher and wider, immense. And tallest and grandest, the city's great pride, the New York Twin Towers rose up by its side. Which ones do you think are the Twin Towers? Maybe these two? What does the word twin mean? It means the same, right? Or it means they look the same. So which ones do you think are the Twin Towers? You're very right. It's this one and this one. What do you notice about these Twin Towers? What do you notice? Look, there's a car down here. And look how high these towers are. Yes, you're very right. They are the tallest buildings around this area. The stress of power, the rush of people, found comfort and rest beneath its steeple. But doom and doom was coming all the time. Doom, doom to a city fair and fine. Doom, doom was in the plains that climbed. Doom, doom, and then the sirens whined. Now, this story is going to tell us a little bit about what happened on a day that we are going to commemorate. The word commemorate means to remember. In the word we can hear almost the word remember, right? Memory, commemorate. We are going to remember on Friday what happened on this day. And this little book is going to tell us a little bit about what happened on 9/11 in New York City. So I'm going to read this again and just listen. The stress of power, the rush of people found comfort and rest beneath its steeple. But doom, doom was coming all the time. Doom, doom to a city fair and fine. Doom, doom was in the plains that climbed. Doom, doom, and then the sirens whined. So we went from talking about this chapel to talking about what's going to happen next. Two planes hijacked by a terrorist group struck the Twin Towers. No warning, no clue. Who thought it could happen or knew what to do? Firemen came and New York's men in blue. Who do you think the men in blue are? Yeah, they're policemen. So right now it's telling us that there were a group of people called terrorists, meaning they wanted to hurt America. And they crashed some planes into these tall towers in New York City. And as soon as that happened, the firemen and the police rushed to the New York towers. There we see a fireman. Through the flying glass and smoke and din, thousands rushed out as these brave men rushed in. On the stairwell to safety, there was no stranger. Each helped the other flee from the danger. And some who climbed down remember clear-cut the faces of firemen climbing up. And over here, the book shows us the stairs that they had to climb up. Up and up and up and up to the top. These brave men went into these buildings that were falling down. There we see the chapel and all the smoke behind it. And then, oh, unthinkable thought, they fell. One tower, the other, they fell. They fell with the rush and they fell with the roar. The sky was blank where they'd seen, where they've been before. And more was lost than who can say. It was our hearts came down that day. Through the clouds of black, no one could see how far spread this calamity. The giants around it had come to a fall. the towers had fallen. And now here we see a door. What do we notice about this picture? It almost looks like the glass is shining or broken. But not the chapel of old St. Paul. It was something of wonder, a symbol of grace. The steeple's still there, not a brick out of place. Some say the giant sycamore wood had saved the little chapel that stood. The old chandelier that they packed away through 2 world wars, they did not sway. So as these twin towers, remember, what is the title of our book? The title of our book is The Little Chapel That Stood, right? And in the front of the picture, we see how the tower right here, the 2 twin towers, are right above or right next to the chapel. But now it's telling us the chapel did not fall. Nothing happened to the chapel. Then they're talking about a chandelier. Then the crystals reflected a busy scene when the doors opened up to the rescue team. There were firemen's shoes on the old iron fence where they'd earlier hung them in haste, quick and tense, as they pulled on their boots and raced to the towers, climbing melting steel to flaming showers. Oh, what gallant men did we lose who never came back to get their shoes. And in here in the chandelier, you could see the policemen and the firemen reflected off of the chandelier. Ground zero smoldered dark and grim. Our hearts stood still. Then we pitched in. Helpers brought shovels and pails or pans. If they had something else, they dug with their hands. If they had nothing else, they dug with their hands to clear the mountain of crumbled steel from a nightmare that was all too real. New York is the greatest city in the world, said the mayor. It has the greatest people, and we will never let a bunch of terrorists make us fearful. Rescuers worked through the night and the day. In the chapel, they'd pause and then go on their way. A hot cup of coffee, something to eat. Here the firemen, welders, policemen would meet. All would come to rest from their labor, volunteer, doctor, brother, or neighbor. Policemen and firemen led the way, but other heroes braved that day. Passengers flying on Flight 93 said goodbye, I love you, to their family, and fought the terrorists right to the ground. Was the White House where the plane was bound? We raised up the flag from the dust and the pain. Freedom that's lost must be won again. Each one of us is a link in that chain to do something grand or to do something plain. First we take heart, then we take aim. Our littlest good deed is never in vain. Working together is how we got through it. Little by little, we learned how to do it. It's nice to be big and it's nice to be tall. But sometimes being little doesn't mean being small. Just like the chapel of old St. Paul, hear the bells of freedom and what they say. Terror may come, but it will not stay. It will shake our world, but we will not sway. It will block the path, but we will find our way. Free and beneath the stars that shine both night and day. The end. That is the end of our story. This is a beautiful book, and we heard a lot about it, and I want to talk about the rest of the book. This is the end of our Read Aloud video. We will continue to talk about what happened in the book and what happened on 9/11 in our next video. Our next video will be for core, and that is your homework for today as well, to watch that video. But that is the end for our Read Aloud. I will continue to talk about more about the book in our next video. Okay? Totus tuus, Maria.